All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking Andrew Turtle's intense 2023 mental health crisis. But we aren't just looking at this as your standard clinical emergency. No, we're going to examine it as a powerful catalyst for long-term personal growth and ultimately a total reinvention of identity. Often when we hear about psychosis or severe mental illness, the conversation just kind of stops at the symptoms. But what actually happens after those symptoms fade? How do you put the pieces back together when your entire reality has just completely shattered?
We're starting right in the thick of it with this gripping quote from Andrew, and it perfectly captures how a manic episode can simultaneously feel like this incredible, boundless gift of creativity, while also acting as a totally destructive force that just rips a life apart. I mean, in a matter of weeks back in 2023, Andrew lost 2 jobs, damaged his relationships, and ended up involuntarily hospitalized. And yet, from the inside looking out, he felt completely invincible. He literally felt like he was operating at his absolute peak.
Section 1. The Paradox of Mania. So mania isn't just one single emotion, right? It's more like a massive collision of completely opposing realities. While he was in the psychiatric ward, a fellow patient, who Andrew actually nicknamed Generosity, introduced him to this concept of dialectics. And it brilliantly explains how someone can experience these profound delusions while, at the exact same time, generating truly valuable, life-changing ideas. For instance, Andrew had this deep, genuine insight into spirituality and human connection, but the illusion was that he believed he was literally living out the 7 days of creation. The insight and the illusion existed at the exact same time. It's wild to think about.
This description is just spot on. It brilliantly illustrates the exact feeling of mania from the inside. It's this exhilarating expansion of consciousness completely colliding with the terrifying fragmentation of a mind racing way, way faster than it can actually process. He was generating all these brilliant ideas for books and new social systems, but everything felt so intensely urgent. He simply couldn't organize the massive flood of information his brain was throwing at him. Now let's see how this builds into a stark contrast between healthy confidence and grandiosity. Andrew's genuine interest in spirituality morphed from, a healthy confidence into a full-blown, grandiose, cosmic delusion. He literally went from studying philosophy to walking the streets without a shirt on, asking complete strangers if they knew all the answers to the world's problems. Why? Because he was absolutely certain that he did. At one point, he even believed that just holding his breath would somehow save the entire human race. Grandiosity totally replaces normal uncertainty with absolute, unbending conviction.
Section 2. Treatment is not recovery. Of course, those cosmic delusions eventually collapsed under the weight of reality, and Andrew hit a really harsh wall: involuntary hospitalisation. Stripped of his freedom and confined to a ward with very little therapeutic support, he discovered a tough truth. The public mental health system is generally designed to stabilize you, but it doesn't automatically heal you. He experienced a profound loss of agency. I mean, when he woke up, what he ate, when he took his medication, all of it was decided by someone else. He found himself just waiting around in a system built largely on clinical containment rather than actual therapeutic connection.
And this brings us to a really crucial distinction. While the medication and containment effectively treated his mania, they couldn't cure the loss of his career. They couldn't repair his relationships, and they definitely couldn't restore his shattered sense of self. Think of it this way. Treatment happens to you to stabilize risk, but recovery? Recovery is what you actively do for yourself to rebuild your life.
Honestly, this is one of the biggest takeaways from Andrew's whole experience. It so clearly defines that true recovery only begins where clinical treatment ends. The hospital treated the mania, for sure, but Andrew had to figure out how to recover from the sheer devastation it left behind.
Section 3, Writing as a Lifeline. Plunged into the depths of a psych ward and grappling with deep depression and panic attacks as his mood finally stabilized, Andrew was stripped of his former professional identity. And this led to an agonizing but absolutely necessary question he had to confront. And think about this for yourself for a second. If your career, your reputation, and even your own mind completely betrayed you, who are you in the aftermath? For Andrew, writing literally became his lifeline. It started out as just a desperate attempt to process trauma. He was literally scribbling fragments on random scraps of paper in the high-dependency unit. But by the time he moved to the Hills Clinic, which was a private facility, he started transforming those scattered notes into a coherent narrative. And then months later, during a trip to Canada, it evolved into a highly structured method for understanding his entire life. But here's the thing. Alongside the writing,
He realized that connecting with others was the true driver of his healing. And I don't just mean the clinical staff, but fellow consumers. People who actually shared his vulnerability. Conversations with patients, like his friend Generosity, helped him make sense of the world again. Meaningful activity and peer support provided the hope and human connection that a purely clinical environment just couldn't offer him.
Section 4. Building a new identity.
Emerging from the underworld of psychosis, Andrew found a completely new direction. Just look at this incredible output. By committing to these new goals and projects, he proved that purposeful activity is absolutely vital to forging a new identity after a crisis ends. He didn't just survive his trauma, he documented it, analyzed it, and turned it into multiple books, websites, and research projects. He channeled all that intense energy from his mania into a sustained, lifelong purpose.
He realized something so profound. Recovery wasn't about going backward to the person he was. That person was gone. Recovery was about actively choosing to become someone entirely new. He lined his life with his true values, taking the insights he gained during his expansion phase and practically integrating them into a sustainable reality. It's crazy when you think about it. Andrew had dreamed of writing books for 20 years, but he had rarely produced anything. The intense focus generated by his mania, combined with the massive disruption of losing his jobs and his daily routine, finally pushed him to realize that dream. The adversity didn't magically give him the talent, but it gave him the story, the drive, and the blank slate he needed to finally become the author he always wanted to be. So I'll leave you with this to chew on. Adversity doesn't have to define you. It can simply reveal you. Your darkest, most challenging moments might feel like the absolute end of the world right now. But as Andrew's story shows us, they might just be the messy, chaotic beginning of your most meaningful chapter yet. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope it leaves you with a totally new perspective on resilience, recovery, and reinvention.